safe streets, vibrant neighborhoods, successful business and commerce. These are things that make a healthy community. We are a diverse community, rural, suburban, urban. A multitude of languages and ethnicities, ages and experiences. We are a collaborative community. Public-private partnerships make us a model community that others want to follow. It is what makes us unique. It is what makes us strong. The employees of Kent County reflect our diversity and seek to serve our communities.
People in this county, in this area, we wrap our arms around each other. We come together to collaborate, to solve problems. We're all working for the good of the whole. And I think that's wonderful. And you can see it. You can see it as you drive around Kent County.
Our impact starts the day a baby is born and a birth certificate is issued, to protecting children from deadly diseases through vaccination, to the public safety and justice provided by law enforcement and the courts, to offering veterans services and caring for the elderly. Every day we work to keep our communities robust.
I think if you are somebody who's interested in serving your community, in building a strong knowledge base and a good group of people to work with, then the county is one of your best employment opportunities out there. It's been completely rewarding in every way I could possibly explain for 26 years, and I feel like I grow every single day still today.
Leading these dedicated employees, our 19-member Board of Commissioners and our County Administrator Controller, along with our elected officials and appointed department directors, placing emphasis on civic involvement, quality housing, vibrant neighborhoods, and strong, solid infrastructure to allow businesses to thrive. Professional, dedicated, collaborative, and innovative.
Behind the scenes, collaboration between foundations, charitable organizations, nonprofits, for-profit businesses, public sector demonstrated through the county, the city of Grand Rapids, the townships, all the cities and the villages in our area. If we don't come together, then we will not have the strength that we have today, and I only hope to build upon that.
Our aim is to make our communities the best they can be. We are involved in exciting development projects, sustainable recycling programs, and creative progressive prevention programming. We partner with elected officials, impacting policy ideas that become great achievements. We seek opportunities to reach out into the community and offer our services to help our residents make Kent County thrive.
Our relationship is solid, both from a staff standpoint at the county level as well as the Board of Commissioners. And they understand what we do and the benefits that we can do for the community, and vice versa. We couldn't do what we do without the help of Kent County.
While most of us are busy running our lives, Kent County's elected officials, administrator controller, and over 1,600 employees are serving the communities where we live our lives, so we can all have a place we are proud to call home. Kent County, its life well run.
All right, good morning and welcome to the Finance and Physical Resources Committee. It is Tuesday, July 8th. It is 8:30. I'd like to welcome my fellow commissioners, our fellow staff in the audience, guests, and other people who came to just learn what goes on at Kent County. So thank you for taking the time out of your day to attend. We'll start with public comment. Is there any public comment today? Seeing none, I will close public comment. We'll go to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Support.
Anything need to be pulled?
Not much there. Just minutes. Checks.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The consent agenda passes. We'll go to item number 3, which is from the Administrator's Office for the 2018 Capital Improvement Program. Wayman?
This is a request to approve the list of capital projects to be included in the preparation of the 2018 county budget. The 2018 CIP requests were reviewed and a recommendation prepared by a committee including representation from Parks, Facilities Management, Information Technology, Sheriff, Purchasing, and Fiscal Services. The recommendation was reviewed in detail by the County Board of Commissioners. The recommendation lists includes 28 projects and an anticipated cost of $8,017,947. Financing for fiscal year 2018 projects is anticipated to be drawn from the general funds, support of $6,458,000 and $1,560,000 from other sources. With the concurrence of the Finance and Physical Resources Committee, funding for these projects will be included in the fiscal year 2018 budget resolution scheduled for board approval on November 30th, 2017.
So moved.
Support.
Okay. Discussion and questions? Commissioner Voorhees.
Thank you, Chair Jones. My question it's in the finance area of where are the $1,560,000 of other sources? Where is that from?
Could we have Marvin come up and talk about that? This is assortment of other sources, but he can explain.
Good morning, Mark.
Sir. As Wayman says, it's a variety of other sources. We've got grant funding, we've got some from the correction detention millage, and we have some funds coming out of other existing reserves in the CIP fund.
Is there a list of them available?
Well, if you look at the attachment 1, you'll see the other column. It'll show, if you want to go through them, I can do that.
Okay, they are all listed there.
Yeah.
They are all.
Yeah.
My question came up in another area, was having to do with the strategic capital project money. I have before me a May 16 communication that stated there was $3.9 million in the strategic capital project. Do we have a criteria as to how those dollars will be spent? What's the qualification to get money out of the strategic capital project?
Well, the strategic capital was just for items that are considered strategic capital. I'm not the expert on that particular subject, but
The strategic fund is a part of the capital improvement. Those dollars get placed there. Of course, the board has the authority to approve any request that would allow spending beyond a certain limit. So those requests, as you might remember, some of those have actually come through the board for approval.
But it's there, is it part of the noted balance? The concern was in another discussion, it was brought up, well, we could take $1.5 million out of the strategic capital project fund, but I didn't sense any criteria for that. You can just take money out as the administration desires it to be. I know it has to come to the board for official spending, but is this just a fund that can be used or is left there to be used?
the strategic capital it's a basic place in the CIP fund. It can't be spent without Finance Committee and board approval. It can be recommended by the staff, and the board would have to approve it.
But it's just sitting there vacant.
It's not earmarked to any specific project.
It is not. And,
No.
and there's no CIPs using strategic capital.
So we just have a fund within the fund that can be drawn upon at the administration's request or
No.
suggestion?
No.
No, then what is the criteria?
It can be at the administration's request, but it's still got to go through the process
Correct.
here.
Yeah, but we have that over and above the balance that is in that fund. There is a set aside $3.9 million that we're not using, but we can.
Which all, Commissioner, it all needs to come through our process as we've done on other requests. It can't, we will not spend those dollars unless it has board approval.
I realize that.
So
No dollars are spent, but this is a fund within the fund with no criteria. Just there to be used as the administration wants to use it.
All funding that gets approved has a criteria. The criteria is that it needs to come through our
I realize
process
that.
for approval.
I realize that, but I just don't understand how and why we have 3.9 million set aside when any dollars coming out of the fund, it's got to be approved by the board. Why isn't that just put into the mix and used?
It was originally set
Ms.
aside along with the facilities management study, you know, the projects that were going to come along as a result of the facilities management study. The funds were set aside in planning for that originally.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Commissioner Talon?
I've asked for this before, and I don't remember seeing it, but could we get a breakdown of the balances that are available in the CIP, including the restricted fund?
Sure.
What balances are?
Sure.
Because we keep hearing about them, and they're a little bit vague out there, and I think it would be helpful for
We can provide
commissioners
that.
to have that.
Sure. We can do that.
Commissioner Hennessy?
We've talked about it in our work sessions a couple of times. I just want to make it clear for the record now that the West Michigan Sports Commission, the Art Vanceplex, that project is on the recommended list, but it's not a part of being funded at this point, that will take separate approvals
Correct.
later.
Yeah,
Just
Carol, I
to say that
see
for the
with that
record.
Art Van Sports Complex having a broad range of discussion.
Okay.
So-
I'm just putting it on the record. It's on the
Yeah,
recommended list.
just because it's
to
a
clarify.
placeholder doesn't mean it's going to be
That is-
appropriated.
And that is, it's a placeholder.
Correct.
But I think the key of that was, and correct me if I'm wrong, Wayman, it was to bring to the surface an understanding that
That
has
it
been
was
in
there.
place.
Right.
That based on the sale of, what's the
Correct.
property? The
North Monroe.
Yeah.
Yes.
North Monroe property.
That when the
Right.
North Monroe property is sold, a portion of that will go to that project. That
If
was,
if it's approved.
if it's
That's right.
approved.
That's
If it's
And I anticipate a big discussion on that.
That's correct.
Okay.
We do plan on, if in fact the North Monroe property sell, then there will be a need for us to take this process and have you all decide whether or not that's a worthy project for approval. That will need to go through our process.
I'm sure there'll be a lot of discussion.
And that's clearly outlined in this capital budget proposal.
Sure.
Yeah.
Number 20. It says, subject to the sale of North Monroe property.
Right.
Right.
We'll have plenty of bites of that apple.
Commissioner Voorhees?
Madam Chair, then if we have this money sitting in strategic fund, why aren't they put to work waiting for the sale of property that will hold its value? I don't understand why we have to wait when dollars best spent now will save in the long run. Wait until we come to the selling of the property when we got funds that are sitting there, and everybody knows we sure are getting a very little return on investments in the banks today. We could better have those dollars being used to meet the needs that are out there. So,
See how that goes.
Commissioner Talon?
Thank you, Chair. I have a couple of things. I don't know if you want me to take one at a time with other people in between. But the first is regarding the detention millage, and I'm looking for a little bit of a long view of how long that can continue to fund some of the capital projects at the jail. I know, near the beginning of it, we kept finding could be included in it. Do we expect the the CIP request from the jail to become greater over the next 5-10 years because less things can come out of the detention millage? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I think this was, right now the plan is this is a one-year thing, because last year we had excess revenue come into the general fund from the personal property tax reimbursement that wasn't planned, that allowed us to hold back some of the funds that would have been from the correction detention millage fund and made those funds available for the 2018 budget. So, but I don't see that being an annual thing. And the other thing that weighs in on this was the fact that we had those large projects we spoke about a few times, taking $4 million right off the top. So without this additional funding, there wouldn't have been as many projects that we could recommend for the 2018 budget.
So do I hear you saying that the detention millage is pretty much fully spent annually right now, that there isn't room for kind of ongoing capital maintenance type projects to be funded out of that over the next 5 years?
It depends on the level, I guess, the level of spending. I mean, I guess it is possible to some extent, but I wouldn't say not to this level.
And there's a number of the jail projects, corrections, sorry, the title is sheriff here, that have other funding. Are most of those coming out of the corrections millage? The camera project, the officer and inmate tracking, the
Yes,
water
all
booster
of
pumps, all of these
the
are
entire
coming out of-
620,000. That's the total amount that was recommended for transfer in from the correction detention millage.
Okay, it all is, okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Go ahead.
Second one is just to raise the term that I have at the work session as well, and that's with when and where we're going to have the discussion. If it's not appropriate here, we continue to not fund park acquisition out of the CIP. And if it's the consensus of the board that that's not the place where that funding should come from, I really want to press us to find a place to have that discussion and talk about where we potentially could find dollars for that. And don't know when or where that's going to happen, but did want to express that concern and that interest that we figure that out.
Okay.
Agreed.
All right, Commissioner Mass?
Well, Commissioner Voorhees raised the issue of the strategic fund. That was in May, that memo, I think. Since then, we have made allocations from that fund, and a lot of it is included in this capital improvement project, as I recall. So I don't know that there's anything left in that. I mean, I don't.
What's the total amount left now that we've?
I'm not sure what the balance, Steve probably knows, but I think it's somewhere in the high $1 million range, so.
Yeah.
$1.9 million maybe, I'm not sure.
Million. I think it's 1.6 or something.
And yeah.
There are, just to reiterate, there are no projects in this recommendation that are using strategic capital funding.
They're general fund and/or other funds.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, Commissioner Talon?
Just one more observation, and that's that, just to note that we are budgeting .30 mils here. And I want to clarify, our policy is .2, but last year we did .25, and for a couple of years we did .25. And we kind of did that because we were making up for lost time when we were doing .15 when we were in some difficult times. I recognize that. But I just want to add that we've now kind of gone the other direction. For a while we went to .25. We've actually gone to .3 now, which is a significant increase. And I appreciate the investment in capital, but just want to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. We'll go to item number 4, the Community Development Housing Commission.
This is a request to approve a transition consultant agreement between Kent County and Asset to assist with the proposed merger and to authorize the board chair designee to execute the agreement and approve extensions and changes within 15% of the original contract. In March of 2017, the Board of Commissioners authorized staff to proceed with the necessary steps for the county to be designated as the Community Action Agency for Kent County and present necessary requests for approval and transfer programs and assets to the county. Since that time, staff from Asset and Kent County have been working diligently to complete the necessary tasks for the potential merger. This includes, but is not limited to, the following: inventory of assets, union negotiations, budget preparation, space reconfiguration, necessary municipal partnership changes, and communications planning. To complete the remaining work and facilitate a smooth leadership transition, Asset and Kent County have negotiated a transitional agreement whereby Susan Cervantes, Asset's Associate Director responsible for the CAA, would advise Kent County on strategic alignment of CAA programs with the existing community development and housing Commission programs and provide guidance to Community Development Housing Commission employees. Kent County will maintain management oversight of the Community Development Department and Housing Commission during this transition period. The agreement period is for a period of August 1, 2017 through September 30th, 2017.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll move it.
Thank you. Support. All right, moved and supported. Questions, comments? Commissioner Coleman?
Just a question on the $51.77 per hour. I assume that's just to bridge the gap with current salary levels? or
Correct.
whatever? Okay.
We work with HR to determine what would be the appropriate level of payment based on the current skill set the person would be providing.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Mast?
Could I have probably Matthew or Jacob or Susan? I guess I'm sort of, Susan is an excellent employee with CAA or an assistant with CAA. Why does not this fall just within her normal job description? Why do we need to have her additional consultant?
Well, right now, because of the grant funding associated with the county community development department, grant funding associated with asset, we have to bill time on an hourly basis, quarter-hour basis, to the appropriate grants we work on. So while asset is willing to provide leave time for Susan to do this, really the reality is we can't because we don't have general funds to support that. We have to be able to bill the different grants for the hours of time we're spending. So to do that, we need to do an official agreement like this. So that's the reason, Commissioner Mast.
So, but this contract between Kent County and Asset, not between Kent County and Susan.
Correct. So Asset, she will be spending her time working on Kent County Community Development Housing Commission programs. So we will have to take those funds that we would otherwise pay a director or something out of our consultant line item to reimburse Asset for that time. And so we will actually need an agreement, and then Susan will have to bill the time ends to us so we know which funds.
Susan or Asset?
Asset. But she will have to track it so we know which funds to write the checks from out of our grants.
So you write the check to Asset?
We will write it to Asset, yeah.
Asset,
Yeah.
okay. Well, does she get some extra pay?
No.
Okay, that's sort of, okay, I guess I'm understanding that now, okay.
We
so
just
you
wanted to
are-
identify who would be doing the work for you, so you knew that it's transition planning.
Yeah.
Because Susan will be, if the proposed merger goes through and it's approved officially after we show you the budget and all the positions and everything like that in Grand Rapids, and Kent County can agree on a change in the partnership agreement, Susan will become the director. So this is part of that transition process.
So as a board member of Asset, I like that idea because we get some reimbursement, right? Okay, I just was a little confused by it, so I think it's a good idea.
Might as well stay. Commissioner Talon?
Well, just to clarify, is the October 1st then still the anticipated transition date if all goes well?
If all goes well, that's the anticipated transition date. It's the end of a quarter, grants will end, it's much easier for closeout, things like that. So, yeah.
And I didn't notice, is there a place in this contract to renew it for additional months fairly easily?
We can do that easily if need be, yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Antor?
Thank you, Chair. Morning, Matthew. It says here that all the necessary steps have been completed.
We're working on those necessary steps. We still need to come back to the Finance Committee and LHR committees for approvals on things like municipal partnership changes with the City of Grand Rapids, financing recommendations for the full budget. We've been working behind the scenes to prepare those things, but they're not finalized yet.
I read it now where it says you're working diligently.
Yeah, sorry.
I missed that, but
Okay.
is there anything out there right now? I know we're dealing with some union issues and so on and so forth. Is there anything that you see that are going to be sticking points potentially as we move forward?
At this point, we're still working on a timeline that says everything should work. The union we've been working with the union, and that's well. They've approved the letter of understanding at this point, and so that'll be part of, our action to you and different things like that. So we're moving on a trajectory that looks like it's a go, but, there always could be hiccups that show up, and so this is that next step to make sure that we're doing our due diligence.
This isn't our last step,
No, not at all.
by a long shot?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Talon?
Just an observation again, and that's that this is really this whole merger thing is really a win-win for probably a win-win-win-win-win for a lot of different people, organizations. And what I observe about is that sometimes those win-wins can be a little messier and more work than you anticipate in the beginning. And I appreciate the continued efforts to do that and figuring out ways to get everybody to the table to make this work. So thank you.
It's a whole lot of wins.
That's what I thought. It's a lot of wins.
A whole lot of wins,
It's a
Jim.
great big list of wins. Okay, anyone else? All right, thank you,
Thanks.
Matthew. Seeing for questions and additional comments, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. We'll go to item agenda 5, the Drain Commission, release of easement for land near Big Crooked Lake.
This is a recommendation to approve a release of easement for land near Big Crooked Lake and authorize the board chair or his designee to sign the release. In 1977, an easement was granted over a strip of land near Big Crooked Lake to the county drain commissioner for the maintenance of the pump station that was owned and maintained by Grattan Township. The pump station is no longer used or needed by the township and has remained dormant for some time. The property owner has requested that the easement be released in the interest of providing extra space for their building plans. Grattan Township supports the request to release the easement as they will not be obliged to maintain the station. The Drain Commission has reviewed the proposed release of easement request by Grattan Township. Since the easement is no longer a benefit of the Drain Commission, they have agreed to releasement. Assistant Corporate Counsel has reviewed and approved the release
So
of the
moved.
easement.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there support? Support. Thank you. Questions, comments, discussion? All right. Yes, Commissioner Coleman.
Just a quick comment on I get that this legal language has probably been written up this way for like a century, but a phrase like "no by these presents" is fairly antiquated. Are we required to have that kind of phrasing in our legal contracts on matters such as this?
We're not required to have it. If you'll note on the last page, this one was actually drafted by the council for Grattan Township, and so it's his standard form. And while we could go back and forth on that type of language, it doesn't hold a legal impact, so instead of spending the time to go back and forth, we...
Fair enough.
Any other questions, comments? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. We will go to item 6 on the agenda from Facilities Management, recommendation of the 82 Ionia Subcommittee.
This is a recommendation to adopt the recommendations of the 82 Ionia Subcommittee to sell 82 Ionia and construct a new office building at Fuller Complex. The 2015 Space Needs Study identified that the county has excess space and recommended that the county liquidate the building at 82 Ionia and relocate the offices housed there to 320 Ottawa and a new right-sized building to be constructed on the Fuller campus. Following issuance of a request for proposals and receipts of the responses, Finance and Fiscal Resources Committee Chair appointed Commissioners Roger Morgan and Allen to join her to form the 82 Ionia Review Subcommittee. The committee met 5 times and on June 13th voted to recommend the building to be sold and a new building be constructed at the Fuller Complex. The subcommittee's recommendation was presented at a work session on July 13.
So moved.
There's support?
Support.
Thank you. So the motion has been moved and supported. Discussion, questions, comments? Yes, Commissioner Voorhees.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. I'll be voting no. I think the summary of the request to build a new right-sized, we haven't determined that, to liquidate the building, is that we're going to put it up for auction, or we're going to, we haven't defined that. I still have a lot of questions concerning whether or not what will be the future use and needs of the facilities that are on the Fuller complex at this time. And so I'll be voting no.
Okay. Anyone else? Questions, comments? Commissioner Talon?
Thank you, Chair. I really have appreciated the process of thoroughly going through some of the options. I appreciate the hard work and leadership of Mary in putting together the information in the packet, which is pretty thorough. I continue to have concerns about this, and to take just a minute to describe some of those. First of all, 30-year or more payback on the investment in a new building seems like too long to me. It seems like a long time, and I struggle with that. Secondly, I've really come to the conclusion, based on what's in the report, what we've heard from the prosecutor in particular, that the prosecutor and IT should stay downtown. We should figure out a way for that to happen. I'm not as convinced about friend of the court, but those two departments, it seems to me, based on what I've heard, sounds like they function better, they provide better service if they stay downtown. Thirdly, there's a lot of fluidity about buildings for the county right now. We've heard some discussion about this place that we're in right here. I know that's fair out on the horizon, but we also have kind of looking down on us the end of a lease of the Spectrum building coming up in a few years on the Fuller campus, not knowing what we're going to do with that, whether they're going to renew that or not. So there's a lot of questions and fluidity in my mind about facilities for the county. There's also, I feel like, a lot of uncertainty and fluidity about government services are going to look like in the kind of atmosphere, the view of government that we're seeing particularly from the federal level and somewhat at the state, on the kinds of services that the county provides and what that all is going to shake out to be, what it's going to look like into the future. So that I wonder about what that's going to look like and whether it's a good time right now to make this move. And the last thing is that it's become fairly evident to me that Rockford Construction, which to me is the most viable of the proposals, that they're really motivated to take on this project at 82 Ionia. There was an article last week, I think in MI Biz, about some of the problems they're having with their Morton property, with getting retail in there, and some of those are related to parking. I've heard them mention parking being an interest. I also am aware that they own the Modiv, former Peck building on the corner. I have friends that rent a space. I know that parking for that is also of interest. So it seems to me they're really motivated on the proposal that they've provided to us. And it would make a lot of sense to me if we could put this off a little bit, because the urgency of it isn't clear to me, and have some conversation with Rockford about, is there a similar to the CAA where we've got win, that Rockford could get what they want by purchasing this building, and the county could get what we need in order to provide optimal service for our citizens. So I am of a mind to ask this board if we could postpone this and do some more due diligence, have a conversation with Rockford about that possibility, whether they might have any creative ways that they could maintain some of these services downtown for a period of 5 years, 10 years. I don't know what would make the most sense, But until perhaps things become a little more clear moving into the future. So, Madam Chair, I'd like to ask if before we call the question, I could offer a motion. I don't want to do that now. I'd like to hear some more discussion if that's a possibility, if there is any.
I don't understand what you're doing. Are you looking to table, or do you want?
At some point, I'd like to offer a motion, but I'd like to.
You don't want to do it now?
Well, I'd like to hear some more conversation about if there is any. But I don't know if there is.
Commissioner Hennessy?
I think that Commissioner Talon's comments were really well thought out and spoken. We had a really good work session the other day that was led by Commissioner Jones, but we did cut it short because of time constraints, and the next meeting is going to happen. And I do think that, I have some other questions and really kind of took exception to the very, we are going to sell 82 Ionia, even though we haven't completely vetted the 3 proposals in front of us, and we're going to construct a new office building. I really took exception to the, we're going to sell and we're going to construct. And of course, it completely ignored the renovations. This motion ignores the renovations that would be on the table there on the Ottawa building. And so I had some problems with this motion is worded, but I still have a few questions, and they, many of them revolve around just, what we're doing with prime downtown space and with the parking that does afford us there. Fully understanding it would never meet all the needs for parking, and fully understanding that the cost of maintaining ramps is expensive. But everything, will be, I just want more time to evaluate all of that, and was a little surprised that this was, so quickly on the heels of a work session that we pretty much, had to end a little bit abruptly. I still had questions at the end there.
Okay. Commissioner Womack?
Yes, I've been looking at this situation, and it seems like we have a lot of different items that have been put together, and it doesn't seem like that I fully understand the full implications of moving our county staff to the Fuller Complex, or how the Fuller Complex is going to be able to absorb all of our needs within the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years. Also looking at the Ottawa building, it's almost like we have 3 different things that we need more details on. When it comes to the Ottawa building, our prosecutor said that that's not the ideal spot for the prosecutor, and I want to emphasize the importance of our prosecutor's office in this team. And the work they do. He also mentioned the protection that they need for the prosecutor's office. So it looks like a lot of the attention and the details that I've heard about has been about the lack of the ability of the 82 Ionia to fulfill our needs because of the security problems. So I still also had questions about when people say it's going to be impossible for us to have those different organizations in that building and make that building to pay for itself. I haven't really got a list of what architects or what developers or creative minds we have talked to and consulted with that would give us an answer that would be impossible, because in 2017, every day we look up, we find out the word impossible might be taken out of our dictionary pretty soon. So I really want more time to look into it. I do appreciate all of the work that Mary Swanson and the others have done on it, because they brought a whole lot of information, and there's no reflection on their work. I just don't think we've had enough work sessions to truly be able to ask them some of the more questions that they may have some great answers for, but our work sessions have not been enough for me to get to the point where I could support this. So I would like more time to look into it. That's just my opinion. Thank you, Ms. Jones.
Did you have a response?
I was just going to comment on the point about the prosecutors. We did follow up with Chris' comments, and his comments were related to operation flow for the staff and as well as security. We have not yet put formal plans in place to accommodate those concerns. He understands that now, and once we do, we have every confidence that those needs will be managed and taken care of. And he supports the board in the movement towards a solution in the county. There isn't a concern from him at this point about whether or not the building would be secure or whether the operations flow would be any worse. He understands that we have his needs in mind. So I just wanted to respond to that.
Thank you.
Hey, Commissioner Morgan?
I guess I get two chances to address this according to our standing rules. So I'm going to start out by saying that we've been looking at this since 2015. I've never served, and I was grateful the chair appointed me. I'm grateful that the chair appointed me to represent the board on this committee. I've never seen or been involved with a committee that was so thorough. Probably some of that's due to Jim, but and when I'm looking at the useful life of a government building, I think 30 years is a great return on my investment. So when you're looking at 80 years for a building. Second thing is, I remember when the prosecutors were scattered all over the place. And they were reluctant to move to 82 Ionia. I remember that. So every time we try to build a new facility, even at the 63rd District Court, I don't think the support staff was too happy about moving initially, but they're very happy now. I guess my point is, if you haven't come to a decision by now, I don't think there's going to be enough questions or enough answers to get you to a decision. I've never seen any questions, and this has been thoroughly vetted, and I support it because I think it's the right move, and I think it's the right fiscal thing to do, and I appreciate the chair putting me on this committee to represent his interests.
Commissioner Mast?
Yes, thank you. You know, I respect my fellow commissioners for, exercising some degree of caution, and I echo Commissioner Morgan's. We have really studied this. I don't want to go back again and reject one of the three offers that we have for the building. I think if we decide not to take the offers that's there, we have to decide we're stuck with that building and then go forward with that. And I think we've all decided that building is more expensive to maintain, upgrade, remodel, whatever it is to use it. So let's at least move forward with selling that building and accepting the proposal. Rockford is a reputable construction company. I am sure they will turn that into a good use in our. I don't know. I guess probably we could take a little more time, although I think we've beat the bushes well enough in terms of 320 Ottawa and a building on Fuller campus. But probably we could do a little more checking on that. But that could be done in a couple more months. But let's move ahead with selling the building. And if it requires a separation of the motion, I guess I'd be willing to do that. But I don't want to postpone. And if we postpone, we might as well reject. We might as well say, we're going to keep the building. Because I think we have done so much with getting proposals. We've done it twice. We've got a viable purchaser, a local contractor who's got a good bottom line, a good reputation, who wants to invest in the community, who wants to invest downtown. Yeah, talk with him. I'm sure he would welcome the chance to talk with him about how best to do that. And he probably would be willing to help us with planning some other construction somewhere else. I mean, it's a large firm. Let's not postpone the sale of the building. And that's where I am.
I just want to add that from the work I chaired on this subcommittee, that when it comes to which proposals accepted, that's yet to be vetted. Is that right, Mary?
That's correct.
Okay. Right. I just want to make that known that. But in looking at it, there's two viable options, and I just wanted to make that
Well, the
comment.
West Michigan Housing Alliance, I'm sure, is out of the running at this point.
we'll vet
Because,
that.
Right.
Okay, I know.
Okay.
But those other two I would not approve.
Okay, as Commissioner Morgan has brought up, there is a standing rule we have that each commissioner has 2 opportunities to speak on this topic. So Commissioner Womack, this will be your second opportunity and last, so I just wanted to make that known, okay? Go ahead, please.
Yes, when we look at the prosecutor's office, it's still a question He's able to take care of him, but we don't know exactly what we're gonna do. It's still, it's just bizarre to me that we're selling a building. We don't have the exact plan of exactly what we're gonna do. We don't have a total walkthrough of the people that use the services in 82 Ionia. Briefly talking to some of my constituents over the week in my community, I wouldn't say this was the concern. You know, I'll be honest, this isn't their highest concern, but I did get a chance to understand that some of the people that use Friend of the Court, some of the people that go to family services, sometimes, especially family services, they seek other assistance. And downtown seems to be an area where we have a lot of legal services. So they might get told you need to go to this point, or somebody might go back to Franklin Street to DHS. Now, when I'm looking at their travel all the way out to Fuller on a bus, and then, okay, go back downtown. Okay, go back to Franklin Street. That's probably small in the big picture of things, but those are the details that I haven't seen come up in a work session. I can't believe that we are going to make this decision. We were forced to make this decision today, that we're doing it without a lot of these details, especially exactly where the prosecutor is going to go, having that full plan. So once we do this, we'll be able to allocate all the funds for everything we need to do to make sure everybody is taken care of. Once again, I do want to just say, reading through the work that I've got in my email, that the committees, they've done a great job. Everybody that's done their research on this has done an excellent job. What they provided, it was great. I just still had questions, and I don't think we had an opportunity to give them a fair chance to address those questions or bring us more information. Thank you.
Commissioner Talon?
Thank you, Chair. I want to try to move us away from thinking of this as a to sell or not to sell. And it really, I think, is more complicated than that. The proposal that we have before us is to sell and to build. And I think there are options for us to sell and all kinds of potential, buy a condo, lease for a period of time until some of the things that I talked about are more clear. That would be helpful to me. But I don't think that this is a situation, I'm quite sure it's not, where we either have to say yes or no to all of the folks that have to our request for a proposal. This is an opportunity, in my mind, to go to any of those folks that have submitted a proposal and negotiate, and to find a way to move ahead that benefits everyone. I'm not convinced that building a new building on the Fuller campus is the best way to move forward. Selling 82 Ionia may be the thing to do, but I don't think this is an either or sell well at this time. I think there are lots of other options. So, Madam Chair, I'd like to I'd like to move that we table this motion for an indefinite period. We can take it off the table at any time, but table it and ask staff to approach, and I would suggest approaching Rockford because I think that's the most viable of the proposals, and just explore what options there might for housing some of the departments that we need, and take a whole new look at this.
I'm not, can I just comment on that last
Yes.
point? Regarding Rockford and following up with Rockford, I'm not sure within the agreement if it gives latitude for that, but I would ask that before we conclude that that's something that.
What agreement is that?
The option that they have, the RFP that they submitted, the bid that they proposed, whether or not it'd be appropriate for us to assume that we can just go back and talk to Rockford and have them modify their agreement because they've given us their best offer today.
There's a proposal on the table.
Yeah. So Could we get clarification from either Mary or Al related to that?
Or from council?
Or from council?
Good morning. So as you see, and I was consulting with our purchasing manager, Cal, on that, our procurement process, what we would have to do is throw out both the bids, which we have the right to do, and then begin a discussion with Rockford under that. Or we'd have to literally talk to both. And again, because I was trying to listen up here and listen to Cal, he may be who should come up and
Right.
talk about that, but we
Correct.
did issue an RFP. We have responses to that proposal, and we have to live within the confines of what they proposed at this point.
Cal, do you have additional comments?
Thank you. We are following our procurement process, which is what is designated by the board as far as procurement. So it would be extremely unusual for us to select one of the respondents and signal them out and negotiate with them. If we're going to continue to follow our processes, we need to give everybody who responded equal opportunity because they're all equally motivated to, especially to submit those type of responses. So it would be, you could do it, but it would be deviating from the purchasing policy that you provide for us and very unusual.
It's a very slippery slope.
Yes, it is.
Cal, now that doesn't, if we select later in the phase of this, if we select construction, that doesn't negate, we negotiate with them, correct?
Correct, under the proposal, but we.
So, but
we
you can't
do
put the
need
cart
to
in front of
vet
the
it.
horse and say, we have 3 or 4 proposals, and I'm gonna pick you, and guess what? We're gonna sit down, we're gonna talk and hash this out, because, you know, that's the way I wanna do business.
Yeah, or it would be unusual for us to select a vendor of them and say, okay, we'll consider you if you give us an alternative proposal without giving equal opportunity to the others.
Okay, so Commissioner Talon, do you understand the second part of your motion is, I just want to ask if you want to leave your motion as it is.
I'll just move to table, and then we can figure out the details of
Okay,
that later.
so we have a motion to table. Is there a second? And it's supported. So with that, there's no discussion and no debate on a table. At this point, we're going to take a roll call vote because I'm going to request a roll call vote. Pam, would you please take a roll call vote on the motion to table indefinitely?
Commissioner Antor?
No.
Commissioner Hennessy?
Yes.
Commissioner Common?
No.
Commissioner Mast?
No.
Commissioner Morgan?
No.
Commissioner Talon?
Yes.
Commissioner Voorhees?
No.
Commissioner Womack?
Yes.
Chair?
No.
3 yeses, 6 noes.
Okay, so we will not be tabling this matter. And we have already, that has been moved and supported to go forward with it. We've had a motion now to table it. It has not passed. So we will go back to our discussion on the original motion. And it's Commissioner Antor's turn. I'm sorry, it is Commissioner Voorhees' turn.
Thank you. I'd like to go back to Commissioner Mast's proposal. I have no problem in the selling of 82 Ionia. I have a lot of concerns about what we might do with those departments and with what might be coming up on the Fuller complex and the financing of it. Here we've got 4 million, maybe more. So if we collected some of the buckets that we may have out there in our finances, do we have to bond at all? We may pay cash. I think we need to have a thorough understanding of where we are financially before we go putting our residents under more bond obligations. And so I'd like to separate you as suggested by Commissioner Mast, and let's explore that.
Okay,
I would make that motion.
you made them, okay. So now how do we do that, Linda?
It's doing, is he moving to amend my motion?
It would be a motion to amend the existing motion on the table with specifics, so I need to hear from the commissioner exactly which issues he's trying to separate. Are you separating the idea forward with selling and then not going forward with the replacement? I just need clarity on how you're dividing the issue.
Yes, I'm separating through giving permission to sell 82 Ionia, but no permission on commitment to build.
And then
So
what
that,
happens next?
that's a motion to amend, so we need a second on the motion to amend.
Support.
There's any conversation or questions
I
on the
was in charge of the
amendment?
committee.
Okay, so this is on the amendment.
On the amendment.
Okay, so we move to the amendment. Commissioner Coleman?
Are we amending Commissioner Morgan's motion to take out that second portion? Or are we splitting the question?
The way it's on the table right now is a motion to amend Commissioner Morgan's original motion, which was request. And it is a motion to amend to give permission only for the sale of 82 Ionia.
Don't we have to take up that second portion though, because it was already on the table? I think we have to divide the question per second, section 315, rather than just amend to drop that whole portion of it.
Yeah, I guess what I don't understand is the motion is to accept the committee recommendation. Commissioner Voorhees is making a motion.
To accept only a portion of it.
Yeah.
We can,
That's okay.
if the commission prefers to divide the question, we can withdraw the amendment and do it under Standing Rule 315 and do it as two separate questions and split the existing recommendation. But that's up to Commissioner Voorhees.
I would approve of that.
So you're withdrawing your motion to amend?
I will withdraw my motion to amend if we move it to a way where we'll vote on each of the two issues separately.
So then you would replace your motion to amend with a motion to divide the question under Standing Rule 315?
Yes, please.
Okay, do we need a second for that?
Yes, you need a second to withdraw the amendment, to drop the amendment, and then you need a second on the, I would prefer a second on the second motion to divide the question.
Okay, so now we need a second on,
Because you had a second on the amendment
Right.
already, so we need to drop that amendment.
okay, so is there, do we vote on that?
Well, yeah.
Can we,
Okay,
Ramon can remove his.
does the commissioner withdraw his support?
Yeah, that's the question.
Yes.
okay,
Oh, dang.
so now we're back
I would have voted
to-
with the Democrats for the first time in a long time.
Okay, so now we're back to.
Wow.
Now we're back
See
to
what
his original.
I haven't gone
now
where
we're
you've
back
gone,
to
Harold,
his-
so don't
His new one, which is under section 315, we are splitting.
Split the question pursuant to
Okay.
Commissioner Voorhees' request.
But that doesn't change the original motion. We still have that on, in the mix.
The original motion as made by Commissioner Morgan
Morgan.
is on the table.
Right.
This is a request and a motion by Commissioner Voorhees to split the action request into two pieces and consider it in two different votes.
Okay, and is there a second for that?
Second.
Okay, that's seconded.
Now you need a vote on the split.
Okay, is there, do you discuss the
Just
vote?
force
on the
it to
split?
vote with the
Okay,
Democrats.
we can discuss the vote on the split. Is there any discussion on the vote for the split? Yes,
Is this my
Commissioner
second time then?
Max.
This is
I
a new issue.
yeah, I think we've got a whole different question, so go ahead.
Well, I guess, I think we should probably put a timeline on the second one, because we do need to move on that replacement. But I think I've heard enough questions of whether or not we really are bound, and the best decision is to do the new office building at Fuller. That probably could be studied, but I think we need to do that expeditiously, like in 30 or 60 days, so we don't
Wouldn't we
just
do
leave
that
it-
anyway?
leave it on the table.
With my motion, wouldn't we be doing that anyway?
Well, no, the motion says to construct a new office building. That is decided already. But I think that's where a lot of the discussion and hesitancy is coming. I don't think there's much hesitancy, at least I hear, on selling it's what do we replace it with? And let's take another 30 or 60 days, and we can do that during that period of time. We could probably even move forward with getting the bond sale going. As I understand, you got to get those notices out and stuff, so we can still do all of that going, because we want to take advantage of the cheaper bond sale.
So you're
We can
saying
do
go
that.
ahead and start the process with the bonding, but
Right now,
I think
we're,
I'm in
right
a
now, we're
parallel
at a
uni- I
point.
think I'm in a
Yeah,
parallel
right now,
universe
we're at a
right now.
point where Commissioner Voorhees is splitting the question, and we are discussing the splitting of the question. So essentially, what's on the table right now is if we just sell the building without any other plans for what happens after we sell it. So that's
regardless
what's,
of what the report said.
right. That's what we have right now that is on the mix. Just selling the building without any plans of what happened to that whole area once it's sold.
What we're dealing with right now is whether we want to split the question into two pieces.
Right.
Not the
That's-
answer to either
that's-
of
that's
those
the
two.
Either
first
yes
Okay.
or no.
So
Do we want to split the
do we
question
want to
first?
split the question first? So it's not
Gotta vote
actually
on it.
whether, how you fall on it.
Correct.
It's just if we're going to split it.
Correct.
Okay. Commissioner Antor's been waiting, so how do I let you have
I
it?
am so confused right now.
Okay, got
No,
it.
here's the, I just think, okay, we're looking at selling the building, in which case the tenants have to go someplace.
Point of order. Do we not have an amendment to be voted on? We're moving to further discussion on the previous.
We have your motion on the table to split the question. That is the motion on the table.
Can we get
That
a
is what
discussion?
this discussion is
Yes.
for?
Yes.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
that's
My
what I was going
apologies.
to. No, that's okay. So basically, we would be selling the building to retrofit the tenantly in some other building that we don't even know. And once again, retrofit them. Before we retrofitted 82 Ionia to accommodate this. So now we're gonna put them out there and just put them someplace. And to me, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. What they need is a building that is built to fit their specific needs and not cobble something together. And that's the only way you can do that. If you've ever seen people knock buildings down, houses or whatever, instead of renovating them, it's like, how can they possibly renovate something as a, you know, or how can they start over and it'd be cheaper than renovate? And I think in this case, we've got, I know interest rates are gonna be going up. I know that for a fact, and I think 82 Ionia is gonna be coming down eventually. And I think the best time to do this is now. And I understand and appreciate all the concerns, but I think there has been a lot of diligence, and I have to rely on the group that got together and met on this. And I also think the quickest way to fail at anything is by trying to keep everybody happy. You're just not gonna do it. The goal is to have everybody happy with the outcome. And I think the best way to do that is to move ahead with the Fuller Complex idea and get everything in one area for efficiencies, for a lot of other reasons. Eventually, it's gonna happen, I think, now with the interest rates potentially going up soon. We should consider the new building. Thank you for the time.
Okay, Commissioner Womack?
Yes, I'm glad that Commissioner Voorhees has actually split those questions, because it doesn't seem like there's as much reluctancy to sell 82 Ionia as much as there is to know that our plans on moving our demands, that we know what we're gonna be committed to, and also agree with Commissioner Antor that, you know, building something brand new shouldn't be out of the question and may be required, because I just don't see, when I drive down Ottawa, I continue to look at the building we're looking to put the prosecutor in, and I'm like, this is like the only two-story building I see downtown. So I just know that if we're moving them to Ottawa, moving everybody to Fuller, that would make more sense, because then that whole community is out on Fuller. But with the Ottawa, I'm glad this is being split, because it tells me we're gonna end up building a 10-story building there, and if we don't do it, it'll be the commissioners after us, once we're in there. So I'm just very supportive that he's
Well,
looking to split.
just for the record, there's no determination yet on whether or not this is going to be, we're going to vote on whether or not it gets split. So it
That's
hasn't
what I'm
been
saying.
determined yet.
I'm glad that he brought
Okay.
it to the table.
Commissioner Morgan?
Yeah, I don't know if this is appropriate, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair. Mary, in the committee, we looked at, okay, we sell 82 Ionia, then what do? We spent a lot of time trying to figure out, do we have enough room in existing space? We contracted Progressive A&E, who I think is a pretty reputable firm, found out that we don't have the space. So what we're trying to do here is discuss and rehash things that were really looked at the committee. Mary, can you address that? I have real concerns about trying to replow a field that we spent a lot of time plowing.
One of the options that the committee has to be looked at is, do we really need this building? And I'm going to refer to my report because we have numbers in there. And what we looked at is, can we absorb those offices within existing space? And even if we went through all our existing buildings, and this came from Progressive and Ellsworth, and in a technical term, compressed everybody, just took away our customer space, our collaboration space, some of the privacy issues that we have in some of our offices, split offices, because most of our offices are 10, 20 people, and they need to remain together in divisions. So we looked at, even if we did that, which was, frankly, we called it kind of an option, if we had to do that, would we have enough space? And the response came back, no. So I can appreciate the fact that people might look at this room and say, well, you know, we could put maybe 6 offices in here, 8 offices. But when we're talking 230 workers, it's hard to absorb them into our existing spaces.
Mary, as a follow-up, could you address one of the follow-up questions that came in renting space?
Yes, we've looked at that, and I have a report on my desk. So there's 2 issues involved in that, and I hate being this old, guys. When I first came to Kent County, the Friend of the Court was renting over in 50 Monroe. The prosecutor's family division was, I believe, out at the old DHHS building, or whoever was there then. And we were looking at needing to tear down the Hall of Justice, make that court function bigger, and find space for all our ancillary justice areas. At that point, Friend of the Court was in 50 Monroe, and their security needs, it's an office that has a lot of unhappy people going to it. I mean, there might be some happy people who are getting their support, but there's a lot of concerns there. And Friend of the Court and Circuit Court Probation receive a lot of threats from some of their customers. It has been difficult, even after we put in the security detail that we have at 82 Ionia, to co-locate. So we're not the tenant everyone is seeking to partner. We did have Tower Pinkster look at an option that was advised of, could we build something to accommodate us and other tenants? And they looked at 2 different scenarios that would accomplish our security needs, and felt that neither of those was a win-win. We know from experience that we have trouble getting people to co-locate with us. And I know when our lease was coming to a term at Monroe, and this was a while ago, they were not interested in renewing it with us because of those issues. So that's one area that we looked at. It's very, very hard for us to find rental space for the services we provide. Secondly, there is just not that space available in downtown right now. It's Grand Rapids, we live in a kind of a boom time for us. And we had a report that Al provided me with yesterday from real estate broker, telling us what's available, what they see available, and it's little spaces. It's nothing where we could have the type of workflow we need. I think Commissioner Antor used the word retrofit. You design offices for the services that are going in there, and you need the space. And so one facility had space maybe in 4 different places for only even one of our divisions. And that's just not conducive to efficient workflow for us or good customer service for those who use them.
Okay, thank you, Mary. So Commissioner Talon, did you have a comment on splitting the question?
Yeah, I do think that some of the conversation that we would expect to happen after the question is split is applicable to whether or not to split the question. And concern is that we would have time to figure out what negotiation we can have, and recognize that what we would be doing here is simply agreeing to sell, not choosing who to sell, for how much, that type of thing, but it would be to recognize that we intend to sell it, that the board would approve the sale of that building. There's a bunch of work that would happen after that if we do split it and if that gets approved that. But that actually is what I would like to see happen, so I will be supportive of that.
Okay. Commissioner Cohen.
On the question of dividing the question, I do share Commissioner Morgan's concerns that we're taking something that kind of, a plan that kind of is intended to stand as a whole and splitting it into parts without knowing what the second part will be. That is a little strange, I think, but I see it as a way, as we're not addressing it entirely, even in the original motion, because we're not addressing who we're going to sell 82 Ionia to. We're not contracting with a specific, construction contract. So to some extent, the whole issue is already split. And so despite some misgivings about splitting it up, I'll support Commissioner Voorhees' motion.
To split it.
Yes. To split the question.
Okay. So, any other comments or questions on splitting the question? All right.
So let's be sure what we're voting on.
Yes, can we,
Clarify.
would you please, Linda, specifically share what this vote is on?
I don't see it changing. Can I just say something?
Yeah.
I don't see it changing anything. We're getting to the same place. I don't see where it changes anything that's not covered in the original motion, so.
We could vote one on one part, we could vote no on another part.
When it comes to bonding, you can vote no anyway, Harold. When we get into that discussion, you can do it. I don't think it needs to be done right now.
Okay, can you please share the split vote that we've got?
We have a motion on the table to split the vote into two, or split the question into 2 pieces. The first piece being, should the recommendation to sell 82 Ionia be adopted? The second piece being, should a new building out at Fuller Campus be adopted?
Okay, so this is the vote to split the question. If the split the question passes, do with Commissioner Morgan's original.
Then it is modified by that split, and it would be handled in 2 separate votes.
Okay. All right. So with that being said, I'm going to request a roll call vote on this. Please, Pam.
Commissioner Antor?
Yes.
Commissioner Hennessy?
Yes.
Commissioner Coleman?
Yes.
Commissioner Mass?
Yes.
Commissioner Morgan?
No?
Commissioner Talon?
Yes.
Commissioner Voorhees?
Yes.
Womack?
Yes.
Chair?
No.
2 noes, 7 yes.
Okay.
Motion passes.
So we are now at a split the question.
The question is split.
The question is split. So we will go with the first part, which is selling 82 Ionia.
So move.
Do we need a new motion for that?
It's cleanest.
Okay.
On the table already as Commissioner Morgan's, but
Okay.
just, we don't need a separate motion, we just need confirmation, so everybody understands what you're voting on. That's the split question, the first piece being to sell 82 Ionia.
Okay.
So now it's just discussion on whether, on
Okay.
that question.
So on this question, whether or not to sell 82 Ionia, that's what's on the table.
Let's take a roll call.
All right, we
Unless-
have,
unless you have more discussion.
we have a call for a vote. Pam,
Commissioner
would you-
Anderson? Commissioner Hennessy?
No.
Commissioner Coleman?
Yes.
Commissioner Mass?
Yes.
Commissioner Morgan?
Yes.
Commissioner Talon?
No.
Commissioner Voorhees?
Yes.
Commissioner Womack?
No.
Chair?
Yes.
3 noes, 6 yes. Motion passes.
Okay, we have officially made a recommendation to the board to sell 82 Ionia. Now, the second part is the building the new building.
The recommend-
On Fuller.
the recommendation.
To build a new building on Fuller.
Correct.
All right,
And relocate to 320. I mean, that's the
right, and relocate to 320.
some part of it.
Call roll.
All right, Pam?
Commissioner Antor?
Yes.
Commissioner Hennessy?
No.
Commissioner Coleman?
No.
Commissioner Mass?
No.
Commissioner Morgan?
Yes.
Commissioner Talon?
No.
Commissioner Voorhees?
No.
Commissioner Womack?
No.
Chair?
Yes.
Got 3 yes, 6 noes. Motion fails.
Okay, so that takes care of the item 6. We'll go on to item 7 for miscellaneous. Is there any commissioner miscellaneous this morning? Okay, seeing none. Oh, Commissioner Talon?
Sorry, I had made a couple notes, so I gotta go in here a second. We're switching so quickly.
Just following the agenda.
Nope, I understand, it's just moving fast, and I'm old. I wanted to ask if, related to the consent agenda and the auditing of checks and purchase orders, if we could get either a background document or perhaps a little 5-minute overview at a future Finance Committee meeting about what that is, why we do it, particularly for new commissioners, but I'm also recognizing, as I looked at it, I mean, I've been voting on that routinely for so many years, but recognizing that it says it's an auditing of checks and purchase order activity. But if you look at the title of the page, it says a record of warrants paid. And this is different than all the other organizations that I'm involved with,
Sure.
where it's not a listing of actual checks that were written. It's kind of a
Sure, we can-
department or a project type of listing.
Sure,
So
we can
a
do
little
that.
background on that, I
Sure.
think, would be helpful
We
to
can do
the
that.
committee. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Mass?
Well, just to follow up on Commissioner Talon's, probably that's why you're raising it. We just started doing this at Community Mental Health because our auditors have been instructed by, I think, the state. So we see the whole listing of all the bills that were paid the prior month and just basically rubber stamp it. But that's got a little bit more than this here, so it's interesting. But I don't think we want to dwell on it too much.
No.
We want to trust our administration that they're
That's why I just asked.
spending the money well, but.
5-minute background or a document that explains it.
Sure, we can do that.
Thank you.
Okay, any other commissioner miscellaneous? Yes, Commissioner Coleman?
With the interesting turn of events in this meeting, how do we proceed now that we've decided to move to the full board the question on 82 Ionia, but have held back the other portion on construction?
The other portion won't go to the full board.
Right.
Just selling 82 Ionia. That's it. That's the only thing the full
Good
board
luck.
is able to vote on.
Right.
Good luck.
Okay?
Is there a process by which we're going to consider in a future work session or something?
I don't know.
Who knows?
I don't know. So all I know, the only thing going to the board on Thursday will be selling 82 Ionia. So,
We will regroup with the board chair and discuss that matter and the subcommittee that was formed to present
well, the
this.
subcommittee has done their charge.
Yeah.
I just want to make that perfectly clear. The subcommittee has done their charge. Okay, the subcommittee had a charge, the subcommittee has done their charge. As far as I'm
No
concerned,
question.
that subcommittee is no longer in play. So if there's a subcommittee with a different charge, that's fine. But there is, this particular subcommittee charge has
Correct.
been met. So there could be a new subcommittee or not, but that will be something that will have to be determined is the best answer.
Yep.
Yes, Commissioner Mass.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones, for
Yeah.
chairing that and for
Sure.
supporting that committee and doing a lot of work
Yep,
to get us to this point. I think you did well. Thank you.
thanks. Commissioner Antwer?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to regard, now that we've agreed here to sell the building, if that gets approved at the next level, we have now effectively forced our hand to do something.
Right.
Then is, what are we gonna do? Are we
It's
gonna
like selling
retro-
your house with nowhere to go.
Are we gonna retrofit? Are we gonna cobble? Or are we gonna do something?
Beauty of this.
At this point in time, this is the cheapest time is where we're gonna be able to build, I think. And to bring it out to the Fuller complex, where, to bring everything on one campus, the efficiencies involved, the involvement with the sheriff's department out there and everything, it just makes sense. And I just don't wanna get so carried away with the process here and trying to do the right thing when it's inevitable, we're gonna have to build a new building and the costs are gonna go up. I don't see any way around that. I may be wrong, so it's part of the process, but thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other Commissioner miscellaneous? Okay, seeing none, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Safe streets, vibrant neighborhoods, successful business and commerce. These are things that make a healthy community. We are a diverse community, rural, suburban, urban. A multitude of languages and ethnicities, ages and experiences. We are a collaborative community. Public-private partnerships make us a model community that others want to follow. It is what makes us unique. It is what makes us strong. The employees of Kent County reflect our diversity and seek to serve our communities.
People in this county, in this area, we wrap our arms around each other. We come together to collaborate, to solve problems. We're all working for the good of the whole. And I think that's wonderful. And you can see it. You can see it as you drive around Kent County.
Our impact starts the day a baby is born and a birth certificate is issued, to protecting children from deadly diseases through vaccination, to the public safety and justice provided by law enforcement and the courts, to offering veteran services and caring for the elderly. Every day we work to keep our communities robust.
I think if you are somebody who's interested in serving your community, in building a strong knowledge base and a good group of people to work with, then the county is one of your best employment opportunities out there. It's been completely rewarding in every way I could possibly explain for 26 years, and I feel like I grow every single day still today.
Leading these dedicated employees, our 19-member Board of Commissioners and our County Administrator Controller, along with our elected officials and appointed department directors, placing emphasis on civic involvement, quality housing, vibrant neighborhoods, and strong, solid infrastructure to allow businesses to thrive. Professional, dedicated, collaborative, and innovative.
Behind the scenes, collaboration between foundations, charitable organizations, nonprofits, for-profit businesses, public sector demonstrated through the county, the city of Grand Rapids, the townships, all the cities and the villages in our area. If we don't come together, then we will not have the strength that we have today, and I only hope to build upon that.
Our aim is to make our communities the best they can be. We are involved in exciting development projects, sustainable recycling programs, and creative progressive prevention programming. We partner with elected officials, impacting policy ideas that become great achievements. We seek opportunities to reach out into the community and offer our services to help our residents make Kent County thrive.
Our relationship is solid, both from a staff standpoint at the county level as well as the Board of Commissioners. And they understand what we do and the benefits that we can do for the community, and vice versa. We couldn't do what we do without the help of Kent County.
While most of us are busy running our lives, Kent County's elected officials, administrator, controller, and over 1,600 employees are serving the communities where we live our lives, so we can all have a place we are proud to call home. Kent County, its life well run.